Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be showing you how to use a lot of the items that came in the 2026 Archer and Olive Summer Quarterly Subscription Box. This box has kind of like a desert steps theme. It came with these soft stamps and the acrylic block to do the stamps, along with 3 different archival quality inks that dry super fast, and this cool little daubing tool with 3 different tops for it that you can use with your 3 different inks. So what you're going to do first is you're going to peel the plastic off, which exposes the backs of these stamps. And then these can be peeled off and you'll see the design of the stamp printed on this piece, and then it is clear. So what you do is you just stick it on the back of this acrylic block, and there's a nice little grid pattern. So essentially you're able to see through it and you can stamp, stamp, stamp to your heart's content. The grid pattern's really nice for lining up dot grids or lines or just your general creative endeavor that you are working on. So you can blot this on the ink directly and transfer that, and you get this really nice, soft, almost airbrushy texture. Or you can, I like to take the ink pads and apply them directly onto the stamp. This is kind of the same if you're doing this the opposite way, like you put the stamp on the ink like this. It kind of lets you have a little bit more control if you apply the ink to the stamp instead of the stamp to the ink. So here you could see how I line things up and then simply press down, and there you go. Beautiful. And since this is just a test page, what I'm going to do now is kind of clean off the stamp by using it again and again, just to see kind of also how much ink it can go through before I remove the stamp and replace it back onto its template. The Summer 2026 Archer and Olive Quarterly Subscription Box comes with all these beautiful stamps. Some of them are more solid, some of them more kind of sketchy line art. All of them really nice, super easy to work with. I'm going to take one of these more solid cactus stamps now, and we're going to do the same thing. This time I'm going to build out a little scene using the various cactus here. We'll get this squat little guy in, and we're also going to pull this. This one's more liney, and some of these little grass, little low growth plants. I think about putting the sun here, but I don't think it really works with this, and that's okay. Something that I like to do in my spreads later is actually make a line of these little cactus and use it as a border, which becomes really easy to do, both because the stamp is essentially a repeating pattern itself, and also because of those clear grid lines, it's so easy to line up and create. I also use that same technique where I take the ink and apply it to the stamp and I press, and you can see I'm kind of using that more faded landscape as the background. This one didn't turn out super well though, so I need to apply more pressure in the middle. So I'm going to re-ink my stamps now, make sure they are super saturated. I grab that terracotta color again just to color the blossom on top of this little cactus. And then just cover a little bit more to make sure. I want to be super sure that this is all saturated. And then I am going to wrestle this beautiful sandstone color out, and I'm going to try to do a little bit of like a gradient on this cactus just to add some visual interest and see how well that can turn out. So now I will stamp it on my test page. We're just going to do right here below the original one. I apply lots of pressure, and there you go. Much more saturated this time. I'm still not getting very much pressure in the middle, but that's totally just a skill issue on my part. And then, like I did above, I'm going to use the dauber and just kind of daub some earthy tone into the ground space below the cactus, just like that. And the more you add, the more you'll build it up. It's kind of like a patience thing, so don't expect to get like blobs of ink on using this technique when you first try it out. And now I'm going to use these stencils. So these are the border stencils that came with the kit, and there are several pages of these. And I'm going to show you just a few things you can do with these. So I'm going to switch out the applicator tip on the dauber, and we're going to go in with that sandstone color. I'm going to really saturate that dauber, and then I'm going to press it through the holes on the stencil to kind of get a little bit of a faint and gentle pattern. So if you want a thicker, more saturated pattern, I would actually recommend pressing the ink directly onto these. I think that would do a much better job of getting that more saturated, ink heavy appearance. But for now, I'm just going to do a very gentle and soft, kind of faded. You can see how fast it dries. Like none of it is on my hand from swiping it across. And we made a very nice little radial pattern. I'm going to use one of the gel pens that came with the kit and trace some of these little half moon patterns as well. You don't need to just use the ink, you could also use a pen or a marker, and these would actually be really great for like call out boxes, or like if you're doing squares or rectangles in your bullet journal or creative planner. You could do something like this instead, where I'm laying down some color and then I am outlining it, so you get that nice sort of filled in shape. And there you go, a filled in shape with an outline. Very, very easily done with these. I like these sort of amorphous, kind of natural, organic shapes that come on these stencils. You also flip the stencil over and use it the same way. So if you wanted to mirror the image or like fit them together by using mirrors, like mirroring the stencil, you could totally do that. And then I just daub some ink over so you could see what it would look like if you do it without the stencil. You would get outside the lines, but you know, that could be the kind of look you're going for. So another stencil on here, a stencil shape, is this beautiful landscape with the sun and the moon. I'm going to take that and I'm going to hold it down the best I can. And here I'm going to apply the ink directly so you can get that more saturated look. You see a lot of it actually ends up on the stencil, so I do switch to the dauber after I swap out the application head. I'm going to return to this. So I think the ink application would work a lot better on a smaller stencil shape, but you could see here I'm really laying it on and kind of using the ink that was left over on the stencil as well to get that really saturated landscape going. I'm not too worried about the ink bleeding over into the other parts. I can lightly rub it, not enough to damage the dauber, but just to kind of blend. Then I'll swap it out again. We're going to go back to the sandstone color and work our way up into the next portion of the stencil shape. I think this one you could have also done direct dauber or ink to paper and then use the stencil over that. So instead of having a white negative space, you would have a inked negative space and then use additional ink on top of the stencil to build out more shapes for your scenery. I'm going to switch back to the one that I'm using for the terracotta color, and I'm I'm going to kind of get around here. I've got like the sun, the moon. We're doing just the top of the landscape and coming in, giving it a little bit of a rub just to blend. You can see how beautifully these inks blend together. Even though they dry very quickly, they still like seem super blendable. I don't know how that works, but it works and it's gorgeous. And then I'm going to take the gel pen, the green one that came with this kit, and we're going to color in that little lone saguaro cactus hanging out on the horizon. I don't think the gel pens are particularly great for coloring things in. You're not going to find a lot of gel pens that are, but I just wanted to give it a little try and see how it looks. And here is the final product. And just the beautiful like texture that the dauber gives to the ink on the paper. This is kind of a toothy sketchbook paper. I really love it. And then I'm just going to write something silly here to show that you could use this space to add text, which would be really cute and creative. I just write create every day. And as you can see, this kit came with so many like landscapes and patterns and shapes. It's really diverse and they all kind of fit that southwestern, high mesa, desert theme. And so I actually decide to use all of these tools entirely for my August spreads this year. So you can look forward to seeing that in a video very soon. Now, there's not much skill to demonstrate with the washi tape that came in this kit, but I figured it might be nice just to slap some on the page to fill in some of the space and, you know, just feel a little bit more creativity. So it came with several widths of washi tape. That's kind of like a standard, I don't know, is there a standard size for tape? Kind of like your Scotch tape size. The one with the half moon patterns is a little thinner. And then there's this beautiful cactus one that's just slightly wider than the standard one that I put on the left there. And then this kit also came with a super beautiful, super wide washi tape that is really fun and kind of unique to work with. I think it's great for blocking in a lot of space and then layering other things on top. You can already see kind of what I'm going with the layered washi tape there. And then I pull the cards that came with this kit out and I am looking through them. I think something that you can do with these cards instead of like using them as a greeting card or as like a little card to give your friends and family and whatnot is you can use the card itself and the really beautiful colors and designs on them in your creative process, whether that's junk journaling or creative planning or creative bujoing. So what I'm going to do now is use one of the stencils, and I'm going to take that general shape stencil and I am going to trace on the other side of the card, the side that you wouldn't see. I'm just going to use this gel pen here and trace that beautiful kind of arch window shape. It's nice and big, so like we could do a lot of layering with this. And I'm going to cut that out very carefully. This particular quarterly box also came with 2 dot grid notebooks, one of which has a linen cover and is kind of the standard size journal that you usually find either at craft stores or where have you, bookstores. And then the other one, it has that beautiful like layered pattern that you see in the extra wide washi tape. And that one is half width and contains a craft paper inside with the dot grid. And they call it like the traveler size journal. And both are really beautiful. I can't wait to use them. So now I'm just gluing down this piece, kind of like a collage. I layer it over the washi tape and then I cap up my glue and I return to the stamps, and I just kind of use the extra ink on there to see what it would look like all layered up like that. I mentioned in another video that I got the spring quarterly box this year too, and in that box were these metallic paint pens. So I just want to test that out here. And thank you for joining me today and watching my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!